We are back with another episode of Monetize Your Haters. This isn't my most popular segment, but it certainly is one of my most fun segments to do. And the reason why it's not as popular because a lot of folks think that they shouldn't be put on blast when they say stupid stuff in a public forum. I don't agree with that. If you say something to me privately, that's one thing. But if you say something in a public forum, especially being, let's say Hassan, right? You should be put on blast. And if you don't like that, I'm just not your YouTuber because I probably am going to be doing this for a while. But there's this guy, let's start there, who comments on my channel a lot, right? This was on my recent video. He said, your obsession with Captain Marvel is not how you spell hilarious. And absolutely laughable. You're basically the Jesse Lee Peterson of comic books. That doesn't even make sense. So I ask, because I've seen this guy's name a lot, right? You know me, I'm very interactive in my comment sections. Guy says, I say, is your obsession with me laughable? Nah, I subscribed by accident. I do find your BS entertaining, though. If you can link me any videos of you scorn woman bashing DC Comics films the same way you do Captain Marvel and Marvel Comics in general, I'll concede I'm wrong about your white boy incel pandering. When I see your videos, I go straight to the comments. So I'm like, okay, so you subscribe by accident, but you've, basically, of the numerous videos you've commented on, you've never thought to fix that, right? That was such a weird thing that he said, right? He was like, oh, I'm just subscribed by accident. Okay, you could fix that. But he chooses not to, apparently. No, like I said, your, again, quote unquote, white boy pandering is entertaining. I really didn't understand why your videos kept popping up. Interesting. But he also says it's also interesting how you choose to reply to only a certain comments. Did Marvel hurt your feelings that much when they rejected your writer application? Why don't you have this same vitriol for the same BS that DC does? Now, what it does is like this whole notion that he's making is pretty silly because, or this narrative that he's trying to paint. He's like, first of all, he assumes that I'm under some sort of obligation to talk about each company like equally. And I don't. Like, that, first of all, is impossible, but I'm under no obligation to do that. But in some of the regards and certainly some of my complaints with like these tokenized characters and such, I've talked about that with DC before. It's not any secret. Now, Marvel just happens to have a more, let's say, drawn out universe from the cinematic portion, so it allows us to talk about that a lot more, whereas to DC does not. But when they do, I've talked about the upcoming Birds of Prey. I've talked about even the nonsense that they do in comic books. I talked about some of the things that were being done in the recent Suicide Squad, for example. That was in the recent video that I did where I said they have a pack of literal SJWs. So it's not that I don't talk about it with DC. It's just a weird thing that I think he sees it maybe more with Captain Marvel. I've talked a lot about Captain Marvel. He's correct in that aspect. But it's not one of those cases where like I refuse to do it, but even if I didn't, I'm not under the obligation to do it equally anyway. But all those videos do exist, right? I've talked about DC and some of the silly stuff that happens in their comic books. I've talked about Lois Lane, issue number 1, right? I've talked about, actually, I did on my New Year's stream, I talked about how I did my top 3, worst comics, and Lois Lane issue 1 was in there. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, that's DC Comics. Not people see what they want to see, right? But the reason why I wanted to do this video mainly after going through why this comment is so dumb is, yes, it's making an example of a guy. I don't think you guys understand, or this guy understands, but I want you guys to understand for future references. YouTube allows us to search you guys' names in our comment sections by just one click and a copy and paste. This is the guy's name. I press enter or I press search. I am able to come up with this guy's all of these comments. Over the last day, this guy's commented on the video I was just talking about, the one addressing Trump, the one talking about America Chavez. Everybody clapped. This Captain Marvel. That's over in one day. He has commented on 3 of my videos, and he does quite often. 5 days ago, a week ago, we keep going, a month, 2 months, and everything's been, he's just him not liking my stuff and talking down and all sorts of stuff constantly, right? Constantly for 3 months. This is not a guy who, I accidentally am subscribed to you. Come on, man, don't front. Just say you love me. Just say you find me irresistible. You have been commenting on, we just getting started, baby. You've been commenting on my page for years. For years. Well, for a year. Let's say that. For months. But basically for a year. This keeps going, by the way. This goes all the way back, to a little over a year. The same guy. And he's pretty much had only bad things to say about me. If he really didn't want to subscribe to me, he would have done one of these. Let's say if my video, not subscribe to me, he would have for one unsubscribed. But let's say if you go to a video and that, look at this, like this keeps going, y'all. Like I'll be here all day sitting here scrolling and all the amounts, and I've gone back and forth with him. Amounts of comments this guy has sent to me. All of the negative connotation and everything that I've said. Yeah, this guy he just accidentally subscribed to me. He just happens to be commenting on like all of my videos for the past year. We're still going. I've been scrolling this whole time talking about it, and he's still on my page. He's been on my page for over a year. We're still going, guys. All right, I got to stop at some point, right? It keeps going. But if he, legitimately wanted to, let's say, get my videos off of the page, off of his page, he didn't want to see it, he would have did one of these bad boys. You see this? Like this, right? I'm actually not interested in this. This guy Sam Cedar, he still has to email me back, by the way, in regards to our debate. When I told him what's the deal, still haven't got an email back. You do one of these guys right here, then you won't see the videos anymore. It's kind of great that we get to see something and we get to see it in action. Like I genuinely don't want to see it. Therefore, I do that, and unless I go out of my way to go watch one of this guy's videos, it won't pop up again. Isn't that amazing? That's because this guy finds me irresistible. The difference between, let's say, what I do versus what he does is he's not getting paid for it. At least when I get to talk about Captain Marvel, even maybe having an unfavorable look on it, I'm at least monetizing it. You see what I'm saying? Some of the things that I say, I'm not getting. This is a part of a sort of a culture that I'm a part of. You see what I'm saying? And I'm a critic in that sense, part of comic book culture. So I read I read a lot of comics, and quite often I read a lot of bad comics. My whole shtick has been, if you want to call it that, I read comics. You guys don't have to read comics. I'll tell you don't get it if I tell you to get into it if I think that you should. And because that's my attitude as this kind of guy that funnels this information to you guys, that's going to be my approach. And I give it to you 100. I give it to you real. This guy is just, Oh, I would just accidentally subscribe. Like, no. If you're gonna call what I have with Captain Marvel an obsession, you got to call what you have an obsession. You just not getting paid for the obsession. If we are going to concede that I have some obsession with Captain Marvel, I mean, I'm at least getting paid for it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm just getting paid. And I want to be fair. This guy is not the only person that has done and said things like this to me. But I just wanted to use this as an example. I see you guys, and I know the guys that hate me and love me and find me so irresistible. You see what I mean? Like with me, for example, even with Captain Marvel, it's not one of those things where I go out of my way to even hate it, believe it or not. Even though I've done a million videos on this character, I've watched the movie, I've consumed the media, I've read the comic books, you know what I'm saying? And there's a comic book and I read it, you know what I mean? And if it's bad, if it's good, I mean, it's no different to any other approach that I do in terms of, like, let's say, in any book that I read. I have a big stack, for example, right now of comic books that I'm going to keep up with, right? All of these comic books are not comic books that I'm going to enjoy. And all of them are not comic books that I'm going to hate. But they are. You know what I mean? Like, I have positive outlook on a lot of these books. And I'll tell you. But if it's trash, I'll let you know. That's just sort of the dynamic of what it is that I do. And, there's ways to monetize it because people appreciate, not only through just the ad revenue of the videos and stuff like that, but people appreciate my perspective. So I give it to them. But all right, if we're going to concede that I have someone's obsession, hey, at least I'm getting paid for it. You not. You just obsessed with me. Like, I'm not subscribed. Let's say this. I'm not subscribed to people on YouTube that I hate or I don't like, or I know I'm going to, like, disagree with all the time and comment and all that. I don't have people. I have 0 people that I've subscribed to on YouTube that I see that I do that with. So you can't say that even with Marvel, because I don't hate everything Marvel. There's a lot of stuff Marvel does I don't think it's silly, but I don't hate everything Marvel. I don't hate everything DC. So keep that in mind if you want to put yourself out there. Not only will I do a video, I can trace back everything that you ever said to me on this channel. So when you say things like that, I can just go back and I can see, no, you're projecting. You're obsessed with me. By all means, you are still welcome. I don't have a block list. You'll never see me do that. You can come on to the page and view me. Just give me that ad revenue, baby.